All right, let's jump right into one of the biggest showdowns in the tech world. In one corner, you've got the undisputed heavyweight champion VMware, and in the other, the scrappy, powerful open source challenger Proxmox. This is the classic story, right? The industry titan versus the up-and-coming disruptor. And it all boils down to this one question, really. When you're building out your virtual world, do you go with the polished, feature-packed power of a commercial giant? Or do you opt for the incredible flexibility and cost-saving freedom of an open-source solution? By the time we're done here, you're going to have a much better idea of which path is the right one for you. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to properly introduce these two titans. Then we'll pop the hood and see what makes them tick. After that, it's time for a head-to-head feature showdown. And then we get to the billion-dollar question, the cost. Finally, we'll lay out a clear verdict on who wins where and leave you with a simple checklist to make your own call. Okay, let's set the stage. Who exactly are we talking about here? Let's get to know these two major players. First up, VMware. The easiest way to think about VMware is to think of it as the Cadillac of virtualization. Seriously, it's this complete, time-tested, fully integrated ecosystem. It has been battle-hardened for decades in the most demanding corporate environments you can imagine. It's polished, it's powerful, and yep, it definitely has that premium Cadillac price tag. And then you have Proxmox. Now, if VMware is the Cadillac, Proxmox is like a custom-built hot rod. It's assembled from some of the best, most powerful open-source parts out there. We're talking things like the KVM hypervisor and the ZFS file system. This means it's super flexible, ridiculously powerful, and as you're about to see, unbelievably cost-effective. So that's the vibe, but how do they actually work? Let's get technical for a second and dive deep into the core technology that makes these platforms go. And right here, you can see the fundamental difference in their DNA. VMware's ESXi is their own thing. It's a proprietary bare metal hypervisor they built from the ground up, optimized for one thing, running VMs. Proxmox, on the other hand, stands on the shoulders of giants. It's built on the rock-solid foundation of Debian Linux and uses the industry-standard open-source KVM, that's kernel-based virtual machine, as its engine. Now, you'll hear this term thrown around, Type 1 hypervisor. Don't let it scare you. It's a key detail, but it's simple. It just means that both of these systems run directly on the server's hardware, the bare metal. This makes them incredibly fast and efficient because there's no other operating system getting in the way. They are the foundation. Okay, foundations are important, but what about the features you'll actually use day to day? Let's put them head to head on the stuff that really matters, like keeping your systems online and managing your storage. This table, man, it tells a huge part of the story. To manage a VMware cluster, you need a separate licensed product called vCenter Server. With Proxmox, that management piece is just built right into every single server, for free. Now, both have high availability, which is great. It means if a server dies, your VMs will restart somewhere else. But here's the kicker, load balancing. VMware's DRS automatically moves VMs around to prevent bottlenecks. Proxmox just doesn't have an automated feature like that. So what does that mean in the real world? Well, for smaller setups, Proxmox is honestly simpler. It just works. But for huge companies managing tons of servers across different sites, vCenter is incredibly polished. But that lack of an automatic load balancer in Proxmox, that's probably the single biggest feature gap between the two. With Proxmox, you have to keep an eye on things yourself and move VMs manually if a server gets too busy. Let's talk storage. VMware has its own special file system called VMFS, and if you want to pool all the disks inside your servers together, you use their powerful, but very expensive, vSAN product. Proxmox, again, uses the best of the open source world. You get amazing local storage features with ZFS, and for that hyper-converged setup, it has a built-in, totally free integration with a technology called Ceph. And here's the takeaway on storage. VMware's vSAN is beautifully simple. You click a few buttons in the web interface, and poof, it's done. But that simplicity will absolutely add a huge chunk to your final bill. Proxmox, on the other hand, gives you all the power of ZFS and Ceph for nothing. You can build incredibly resilient storage systems, but you gotta be ready to roll up your sleeves and learn how it all works. It's got a much steeper learning curve.
And that brings us to the part of the story that, for so many people, is the climax. Let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the dramatic, and I mean dramatic, difference in how these two platforms handle licensing and cost.
You couldn't invent a bigger contrast if you tried. VMware is pure commercial software. You pay for licenses based on how many CPUs are in your servers. And then you pay extra for key things like vCenter and vSAN. It's an a la carte menu. Proxmox, it's free, period. All the features are there right out of the box. The only thing you can pay for is an optional support subscription if you want someone to call, and even that is super affordable.
And look at the real-world impact of that. We're not talking about a small price difference here. The cost gap can easily be more than 10 times. A pretty standard 3-server VMware cluster, once you add in vCenter and vSAN, can easily run you tens of thousands of dollars every single year. That exact same setup in Proxmox, the software cost is zero, or maybe a couple grand if you want top-tier enterprise support. The numbers are just mind-boggling.
So, with all that on the table, where do you go? Let's stop talking theory and start applying this to the real world. Which one is the right tool for the job?
When you're talking about massive companies, the Fortune 500s of the world, the analysis is pretty clear. For those big mission-critical production environments, VMware is still seen as the default choice. It offers the most complete, all-in-one package and a level of reassurance that's hard to beat. And here's why. For a giant enterprise, those automated features like DRS or their advanced networking platform, NSX, are often non-negotiable. Plus, VMware has this huge ecosystem of vendor certifications from companies like SAP and Oracle. It's the safe harbor. Nobody ever got fired for choosing VMware. That being said, if a company doesn't need those absolute top-tier features, Proxmox is quickly becoming a really compelling way to save a ton of money.
Okay, but what if you're not a global mega corporation? For small and medium businesses, this is where the story completely flips on its head. For an SMB, Proxmox isn't just an alternative, it is an absolute game changer. It gives you almost everything you need, but at a tiny fraction of the cost.
And finally, for all my fellow tech enthusiasts and home lab builders out there, this isn't even a competition. It is a total knockout. Proxmox is the clear, undisputed winner. Why? It's completely free with 0 feature limitations. It runs on pretty much any old computer you've got lying around, which is not the case for VMware. Plus, you get cool built-in tools like Linux containers. It is the perfect sandbox for learning and experimenting.
All right, let's bring it all home. I want to wrap this up and give you a really simple framework you can use to make the final choice for yourself. It all comes down to asking yourself 3 simple questions. First, features. Are things like automated load balancing an absolute must-have for you? If yes, that points to VMware. Second, budget. Is the all-inclusive ecosystem of VMware worth the huge price premium, or is saving money your top priority? And third, skills. Is your team full of VMware experts, or are they comfortable working on the Linux command line and embracing the flexibility that comes with Proxmox? And that leaves us with this final thought. When you strip everything else away, the choice between VMware and Proxmox really comes down to this one question. In your world, for your specific needs, what wins out? Is it the time-tested, fully supported, but premium-priced ecosystem? Or is it the powerful, flexible, and almost unbelievably affordable open-source price tag? The right answer is out there, and it depends entirely on what you value most.